once again a warm welcome to Flight Sim and other stuff, and it is back to the tutorial and the Airbus FlyByWire A320 Neo and part 2 of the basic flying course. Now, I know I said I would pick up the last flight from where I ended, which was just after pushback. There's been a couple of changes to the fly-by-wire, so I thought I would show you those and explain a couple of other things in the cockpit before we take off. So I'm not going to take it as slowly as I took the original part 1. So the cockpit preparation I'm just going to go through fairly quickly as I possibly can, just so I don't bore you to tears, and then we'll get on to the new stuff for this lesson, which is the takeoff and up to top of descent, and if I get time, I might even complete the flight. So once again, we're in Gatwick, and let's jump into the cockpit. So we'll do a ready to fly, and here we go. So the first change that has happened in the fly-by-wire mod is in the fly pad. Now there is an update coming to this shortly which will include Navigraph charts, so I've seen. For the moment though, but for the moment we'll just go to SimBrief and get this flight, which is EGKK to EGJJ before. And the first difference, you'll see the OFP. In the initial lesson I said you need to go to this in SimBrief because, just for the beginners that is, there's only one piece of information that we're really interested in, and this is the block fuel. Well, I don't have to read the OFP in SimBrief anymore, it's sitting there for me. So what we're interested in, 5132 is our fuel. Go to the fuel here and we'll put 5132. We're actually going to defuel, or if that is a thing. So that'll set the fuel up for us. Now we can go to ground and connect the external power and connect the air bridge and get ready for passenger boarding. So now it's time to fire things up. So let's connect the external power. Batteries on, and of course we've got to put the beacon on so we can see what we're doing. Let's background lights on. So align the adheres, put the no smoking sign on and arm the emergency lights. I won't put the seat belts on yet because we're fueling, and we'll switch on fuel pumps. Again, I don't think we'd do that if we were actually fueling. And get the APU ready. But let's bring up the lights on the rest of the instruments. Primary flight display. Autopilot, the two light switches are below here, so the background lights and lights, turn those up. Next one down is the ECAM, the upper display and the lower display, and then back here you need to put the ground lights on there. So we can put the flight plan in as before. We go to Init and request from SimBrief flight plan we're doing today, and there we go. Next page of the block fuel is 5.1, and press once, press twice for the zero fuel. Now we go to the flight plan.
73 Alpha 34 ready.
And it's pilot to ATC. I can see on my other screen that the departure this evening is going to be a runway 26 left, and we're going to be using the Novan 1 mic Sid.
203 heavy, 62 with the Tango, fully ready for push start.
And no transition. And going down to Jersey, it's a runway 08.
705 and uniform American.
And we'll do an ILS. Runway 08. And it's the Jersey 1 X-ray.
Yeah, let's hope so this time, Cafe 270. You may switch to ground once again.
By Jersey.
05, fine.
And so there we're ready to go. And performance. Maps 2. Temperature.
5, hello, sir. Information
40.
Uniform Canadian 997, call ground control.
V1
fine.
and V2 is 126 and rotate is 122. So my flight plan is ready. Get the overhead panel. The APU is started. Check that the APU is ready. We go to the ECAM and we press the APU button. And you can see that APU is available. Means the APU is running and ready to supply us power. So with that I can switch on the APU bleed. There's no need for ground power anymore. That off, and we can go to and dismiss little power unit. Terrific. Now I think we're ready to call up ATC and get clearance.
677, hello sir, information uniform Canadian 997.
Skyways 156 are ready to copy IFR clearance to Echo Golf Juliet Juliet.
Skyways 156 is cleared to Echo Golf Juliet Juliet. Climb via the OVM 1M departure with the OVMA transition, then as filed. Expect departure runway 26 left. Climb to flight level 100 via the departure. Expect higher clearances 6 minutes after departure. Squawk 6263. Contact tower on 124.22.
Tower on 124.22 Skyways 156.
6263 is the squawk. Now normally, excuse me, we wouldn't switch the squawk on until we're down at the runway, but I'm going to do it now to save me time later on. And the next thing to look at, they asked us to climb to flight level 100 and expect higher clearances after. However, before we do that, we need to check on the primary flight display and this one here. We need to check if there's any constraints. So the constraints are limits put in of altitudes you're not allowed to climb above, and each waypoint may have a constraint. I hit the constraint button and now I need to scroll through the flight plan. Bit difficult in this view, so I'll go to plan, and I can see instantly here we have a constraint at 3000. You can step through the plan, and to do this you need to come out a little bit and have access to the MCDU. While in plan mode, if you go to flight plan on the MCDU, scroll through, it'll take you through the flight plan step by step way through. Now I'm just going to go back here and look. We have a constraint there of 4,000 there, and back one. 3,000. So we do not want to climb above 3,000 until we get to this waypoint, despite air traffic control said on departure climb to 10,000. We've got to stay within those limits. We need to set that up. Let's put this back to park and look at the configuration of the autopilot and explain what's going on here. But first of all, this is the altitude that we're going to climb to. So I'm going to set that to 3,000, which is the maximum altitude allowed at our first waypoint. Now, these dots that you see next to the speed, heading and altitude, these mean that the aircraft and the flight plan inside the MCDU is in charge of the aeroplane. And this is called managed mode. And that's what the dot is there for. On the altitude, if our flight plan and our MCDU says climb to 10,000 feet, it will do as long as it doesn't break the altitude that we've dialed in here. But despite what's on the flight plan, we will not climb above 3,000 feet because I've put that number in there. Now, how do we change from managed to selected? Selected is when you're in charge of the speed, you're in charge of the heading, and you're in charge of the altitude while in autopilot mode. To control these buttons on a Boeing, if you've flown a Boeing before, these buttons are just push buttons. In Airbuses, they are push and pull. And the way to think about how these buttons work, push means you're sending control, or you're pushing control to the aircraft. Pull, which is the bottom half of the button, so you pull it out, you're pulling control to yourself as the pilot. So I can't see any speed in here because the aircraft is in charge of the speed. If I pull the button, I can now rotate it. My V2 was 126, I could spin this up to 126. Spend hours spinning the mouse, and likewise on the heading, pull it. I need to set this for runway 26, going the wrong way. Somewhere around there. But I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do this managed. Likewise for the altitude, if I pull the button, the dot disappears and we will climb to that and not go any further. Push it. We are under control of the aircraft in managed mode, and we will climb to the maximum altitude. It's that simple, really. And we'll have more about manually adjusting these numbers when we get to one of the more advanced training programs a little bit later on in this course. So, we've got our clearance, and we were told the Q&H. Can't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter because we've got the Q&H down here on our dashboard anyway. It was 1023. Should set 1023 on the Q&H. And now we're ready for pushback and engine start. I didn't turn up background light. Back up. There we go. So everything should be fine. Let's call up ATC. Skyways 156, ready for pushback and engine start.
Skyways 156, pushback and engine start approved.
Pushback and engine start approved. Skyways 156.
I'm going to start pushing back in a minute. I better switch the seatbelt lights on because I don't want people walking around. APU is on. I can get rid of the external power. Don't need it. Oh no, that's already off. That's just saying power available. So, to push back, we go to ground and we call the tug. The minute I call the tug, we will automatically dispense with the bridge and the doors will be closed. So there goes the bridge, and if we pop outside, a real pilot couldn't do, you can see here the tug is lining up. Now in other simulators you'll actually get communications from the tug to say it's connected and release the handbrake, release the parking brakes. You're not going to get that here. So let's prepare. That's ready to go, and we'll release the parking brake and we'll start the pushback. As the pushback starts, we will switch on engine 2. And we can pop outside. Push it back. Now I need to push back and face towards the screen because runway 26 is behind us at the moment. Let's go to the tablet and we're going to spin the aircraft round this way.
Good morning, good morning.
So I do love this scenery. Did another update last night. Looking fantastic. Freeway. Again, and we will stop. Push back. I think I've made an awful mistake. No, I haven't. I thought. Oops. It lurched forward there because I didn't have my throttle quadrant set back. You should really be using the checklist for this, but I just want to zap through it quickly, so I'm doing everything. As I said before, this is just a beginner's guide. So let's set the parking brake. Excellent. Engine 1 is up and running, and we can start up engine 2. Looking here, this is what you should be watching when the engine fires up rather than steering the tug. So you need to make sure that the engine starts up and it stabilizes, and then you'll see available pop up in a small box here and disappear. Available means that the power is available from the generator from that engine. You can also see here in orange, this is a warning, and it says nose wheel steering disconnected. The nose wheel steering is disconnected by ground when they're pushing you back. Now we've got to get rid of the tug. Let's say goodbye to the tug. Goes. Pop outside, you can see him disappear. Back in. And the nose wheel is connected again. There's the available light, and if we go to the overhead panel now, you see we've got no alarms next to the generators because the generators are now being supplied. Switch on the cruise supply. We don't need the APU anymore. Now some pilots in the real world leave the APU, some airlines leave the APU on to we're airborne, but I'm going to turn it up now. And we're going to put the strobe on auto. We're going to put the wing lights on, and we're going to put the nav logo on, and we're going to put the taxi lights on. Ooh. We're now ready to ask the taxi clearance. Skyways 156, ready to taxi.
Skyways 156 taxi to runway 26 left.
Taxi to runway 26 left, Skyways 156.
So clearance to taxi to 26. They haven't given us guidance on taxi. They haven't given us the taxi route. This is a limitation of this scenery and pilot to ATC in MSFS. The airports, none of the airports have taxiways that are recognised by pilot to ATC. There are some modified airports available on flightsim.to. Most of them seem to be around Innsbruck. There's a lot of airports around there that have full pilot to ATC taxiways enabled. So it doesn't matter, I know the way to runway 26, so let's just take the park brake off and we're ready to start taxiing. It doesn't take a lot, we can just give a little bit of power, it'll start rolling, and once you're rolling, Airbuses normally taxi on idle. Now if I was in VR it'd be a lot easier because I can move around. We need to do the rest of the cockpit preparation, ready for takeoff, and I'm going to look at that in a second, but I'm not going to run over a vehicle. I'm not going to do that while I'm in 2D. I'll do it when we're at the holding point. Runway 26 is round here. Go outside and look at this amazing scenery. Graphics quality of Microsoft's Flight Simulator is superb. PBR textures everywhere. Getting a little bit offline. The 26 is just in front of us down there.
Skyways 156 contact tower on 124.22. Have a nice flight.
Tower on 124.22 Skyways 156.
The pilot to ATC knows that you are approaching the holding point, and we're going to call power for clearance. Take off. Runway 26 left. And runway ahead. And we'll stop. Oops. Let's put the parking brake on and let's deal with the takeoff config. So we're going for a flaps 2, so let's put 2 on the flaps. We arm the speed brakes and then auto brake max. Before you can take off, you've got to have what they call no blues here. We got a blue against the cabin, and we got a takeoff config test. Remember from last week's part 1, the cabin light. That's it. Page to the cabin crew. Let's go back down here, and we press the takeoff config, and we got no blues there. We do have this one, and I told you in part 1 I was going to explain what it is. This is the weather radar. Weather radar isn't on at the moment. It's just an alert. It's a warning. Stop you taking off. It's always worth having the radar on. So let's jump down. It's this bottom display, bottom panel in your center console. This controls the weather radar, and you just basically switch all of these switches to the right. We go auto on that one. We go auto on that one. If I turn the floodlights up, get a better view. So yeah, auto on that one, auto on that one. This actually doesn't matter whether it's 1 or 2, but we'll go to system 2 and we'll go auto there. We should lock the cockpit door, of course, and the ignition mode should be on normal. But once again, go to the ECAM and press takeoff config. Yes, we're all good to go. So let's tell power. Skyways 156 holding short, runway 26 ready for departure.
Skyways 156 winds are 060 at 10 knots, cleared for takeoff. Runway 26 left, squawk 6263.
Cleared for takeoff. Runway 26 left, squawking 6263 Skyways 156.
So lights to take off, and we'll kill the floodlights and line up for takeoff. Let's take the parking brake off and a little bit of power. We haven't I haven't switched on the flight directors. Must do that. One flight director there, and one flight director there. Line up. Now taking off on the Airbus, it's usual to put a little bit of forward pressure on the stick, shown here. This just puts a little bit of downward force on the aircraft as it's picking up speed, makes it easier to control and makes it more stable. Keep that down till you get to about 80, signalled on the ribbon there, and when it gets to 80, let go of the stick that's centered, and then when you hit the rotate, VR 122, you pull gently back on the stick and you're looking to climb at about 10 degrees. So set that at the 10 degree mark there and you should be fine. Once you've got a steady climb rate, bring up the landing gear and keep an eye on the ribbon for the flaps, because you need to bring the flaps up fairly quickly as well. Well, you need to bring flaps too. So we're ready to go. Applying the throttle. Let's show you the throttle from here. There are 3 detents here. The first one is labelled CL, that's for climb. The second one is flex, that's a standard takeoff. And this is a takeoff go around toga. And you would only use that normally if you want a full power, so rough weather, short runway, or you're just heavy-handed with your throttle. We're going to aim for taking this up to flex. Oh, you can't see the throttle from where I'm sitting at the moment. My throttle quadrant is down next to me. It's usual to take it up to about 50%. Looking at the power there, make sure that they both in sync and they're stable at 50%. Release your foot brakes and take it up to the second indent. And here we go. That's why I shouldn't change views. We're at 100. Come up for 120. Pull back on the stick. Trying to aim for 10. Steady rate of climb so we can bring the gear up. I'm in a bit too fast. We're trying to keep on the line at the moment because we're doing this manually. Flaps up. Flaps 1. And once you pass that S, you can retract the flaps altogether. And we're now at 1500 feet, so we can switch the autopilot on.
Skyways 156, contact Gatwick radar director on 118.95. Enjoy your night.
Radar director on
And
118.95.
you can see a flashing light here that says lever to climb. You must bring your lever back to climb.
Radar director Skyways 156
and it's going to stay there now
100.
For the duration of the flight.
Skyways 156, good evening.
And you'll know you got it right because you've got speed. There, we're in the
Squawk 6263 Skyways 156.
Co-pilot is dealing all the calls at the moment. The next time we have to initiate a call is when we're on finals, I believe. Then we can sit back and listen to that. Here we are, 3,000 feet. We can't climb above 3,000 feet yet. We're going to stay at 3,000 feet here, 3,000 feet there. Actually, if I take the range up, we'll move the range of the map up a little bit. We can go to 4,000 feet once we pass the next waypoint. But once we pass this next waypoint, we can up the altitude to 4,000. QNH stays at 1023 until we pass the transition altitude. Transition altitude in the UK is 5,000. In the US, I believe they use 10,000 as the transition. And here we are, just passing 3,000, so I can go to the autopilot now and take that up to 4,000. Hopefully, when we pass the waypoint, we should see the aircraft climb to 4,000. Of course, it will only climb to 4,000 if I tell it. I need to just send control an update. So I'm pushing control saying I've changed your constraint up to 4,000. Okay. Now you can control the rate of climb, and there are other modes of operating the autopilot, but we're just going for the standard basic training, as I said. Now we're up in the air, let's go to the overhead panel and we can switch off the turn-in, and we can take the nose taxi lights off, build the strobe, put that on, and again, once we pass the 4,001 there are no more constraints, and ATC asked us to climb.
156 contact London control on 118.47. Good day.
Center on 118.47, take care, Skyways 156.
Go outside and have a quick look.
Center Skyways 156 climbing to flight level 100.
Skyways 156, good evening. Squawk 6263.
Squawk 6263, Skyways 156.
Let's just check that the transponder's on.
Skyways 156, radar contact.
Okay. Coming up to 4,000, coming up to the last waypoint there, so we'll get ready to dial this up to 10,000. You can see there's quite a lot to do on one of these, and if I had to tune the radios and do all the chat and do all the buttons, it takes quite a bit of work. It is great fun, and I will show you a way of doing that again in one of the future lessons. So there we are, we've passed that waypoint, and we can go to the autopilot and say go for it. That's it, it already has. Cool. And let's take the range button up now. Voga, Southampton, turn left, and we're on our way to Jersey. The next one we're going to look at is the top of descent.
Skyways 156, climb and maintain flight level 160.
Climb and maintain flight level 160, Skyways 156.
And so the story goes. I don't think it's worth just playing the rest of the flight in real time for you. So I'm going to pause it here and rejoin the flight as we near the top of descent.